Get your light on as well, as we're live now.
I go blind after looking at it for so long.
Yeah, we spoke about this last week, eh? And my camera's even wrong. Jay, this is shocking. I probably should have done this before we went live, eh? It's all right. We're on. We're on. All right, we're here. Camera's on. I've got a nice fluorescent orange shirt. It works. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Another round. Round 5. We are previewing. We'll gather rounds ahead of us, and we'll be touching on everything that happened over the weekends over the weekend's action of football. I'm your host Ari Stamatakos. Always joined. Always a pleasure, never a chore. Joined with Nathan, and as we always do, thoughts on the weekend's actions. How was your weekend? How have you been since the last time we spoke?
Look, it was a tough week of football if you look at what I've said in the last episode, but it started well. And then I was, if you've seen any of our tweets on the account, I was in the movie cinema on Saturday night as Port Adelaide were playing. So it's quite a weird mix of emotions watching a movie whilst also learning the fate of what you said the week before is completely wrong. So it was a bit of a tough weekend, I must say. Not a great ending.
We'll get onto that. But we will get onto that. No, don't worry about that. But apart from your horrendous predictions, your horrendous prediction ability, and your horrendous foreshadowing, how was your weekend otherwise? How's Friday? How's Friday afternoon? I'll narrow it down.
Well, Friday afternoon was good, wasn't it? But after half time, it was good. Can't say the first half was terrific, but good cause, I got to say. Friday night, it was great to see what they did with the kids. Yes. That was awesome to see. So it was a nice feeling in the stadium and a better feeling at full time. So it was a good Friday.
It was a good spectacle. Very, very, very nice spectacle. First time, or 43,000 or whatever it was. At Marvel, what? 49?
49.
Yes. 49, there you go. I can't count. 49,000 at Marvel, which is great. Good calls, good occasion. I can't speak. It was a good occasion, and everyone enjoyed themselves, which was great. Well, maybe not North Melbourne people, but they made a good account for themselves. But we don't speak about that club on we don't speak about our club on this show. That's not what the point of the show is. Let's crack into things. Got a lot of things to cover. We will touch on Port Adelaide. Don't you worry about that. We'll be touching on Brisbane as well. So 2 clubs which Nathan has a very strong opinion about. We'll be touching on Adelaide as they play our boys tomorrow. We'll touch on the Dogs as well quickly. Hawthorn as they got spanked, and then gather our thoughts before we preview the round. So let's not delay. Let's not stall any longer. Let's crack in, shall we? Let's crack in. Now I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to give you the floor to apologise, to double down, to do whatever you would like. I'm going to give you the floor. I'm just going to take the reins. Go.
Now, look, if you're a first-time watcher of this show, I didn't say that many negative things, right?
No. Go back to last week.
Nice.
Yeah, after this, go back to last week's and watch about the 20-minute period in which Nathan goes full hell for leather. I wouldn't say abuse, but very strong criticism. And then a matter of 72, maybe just over 72, 96 hours later, watch him be proven wrong in glorious fashion. So, sorry, I'm interrupting. Continue.
Look, I did give it to Port, and I thought deservedly so after the performances they put up. And, you did say the showdown might have just been, you should isolate the showdown, right? I didn't. I saw both sides to it, right? But
no, you didn't.
Look, at quarter time, I'll be honest. I was like, here we go. Like, this is it. Like, this is the last game of Port Adelaide in the Hinkley era, right?
Yeah.
And I'm, checking the scores. I couldn't watch it. And it sort of gets to half time. I was like, okay, it's close. Both teams have had it. And Port, they won, didn't they? They proved me wrong. And I did say at the end of last week, I was like, look, if Port get up, fair play. I'll sit here and admit I was wrong. But I don't think I'm wrong yet. I still stick with what I said. I do think it will crumble eventually. And if they win this week, If they win this week, I'm in real trouble.
You reckon?
But,
you reckon?
Look, spoiler ahead, I'm backing the Bulldogs this week. I think it was a 1 week thing.
That's a surprise.
Because Port they tend to do this in the past, where they'll have that one game that surprises everyone, and then they'll go back to how they were. They played well. Fair play. I guess the spark's there. Still, somehow they beat a team that's contending, which I said I don't think they can beat teams that away from home. Fair enough. Sydney's not that hard, right? But
just ask Collingwood.
But anyways, fair play, Port Adelaide. Back it up though, if you're serious.
Right. Okay.
Or else I feel like they go back to square one if they lose this week. So they're proving me wrong, and I'll sit here and admit I was wrong.
So you're not admitting you're wrong just yet, and you're not apologising to the fans for wasting their time, to Port Adelaide or to me.
No, I said I admit that I was wrong about them not being able to beat anyone that is contending, but I still think I'm right in the fact that this team isn't going to actually contend. Like, they don't have a team to contend for a premiership anymore. Like, those days are done. They should be moving forward with a new coach. I feel like it's a waste now. But I was wrong on the fact that they're not going to beat anyone that is contending, and they have. So don't mix my words up anymore.
Right. Okay. No,
that's where we're leaving it.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that, and we'll move on. Well, we'll get my thoughts on Port Adelaide. I just want to say to everyone, you're welcome that I was able to speak some sense last week. I know I had to cater for the lack of sense being spoken on the other side, and really had to bring it back to 50-50. But as we've established, my prediction ability throughout the season has been spot on. So once again,
do you want to tell everyone what the predictions are at the moment? Well, I thought you meant tips, but your predictions have been awful. Do you want me to play? Well, if I had control of the dashboard right now, I would be playing that 4-second clip of in 12th spot the Collingwood Magpies. So let's not move that quickly to how good our predictions have been.
Look. There's no proof of that as we stand.
No proof of that. I'll be tweeting that right after this show.
As we stand. So, look, if you're not first, you're last. So, by my accounts, we're both wrong. No. It was in all seriousness, it was a good victory by Port Adelaide, and it was as much as I want to be smug, and as much as I want to be like go on my high horse and really stick the knife in. It was a good performance from Port Adelaide. They responded really well after a very turbulent and tumultuous week, especially both a tumultuous week and a very poor opening half. They went 4 goals down. They brought it back to pretty much level at half time before then going 4 goals down again. So it was a real ebbing and flowing type of game. It was kind of maybe a tale of two halves, if you can count the second quarter and the fourth quarter as one half, and the first quarter and the third quarter as another half. Port Adelaide responded well. A lot of adversity throughout the week, and in a game that was almost set up for them to, I wouldn't say lose, but in a game that was set up for Sydney to really establish themselves as, we're serious after what happened to them the week before. I thought it was a very mature performance, considering as well they were 4 goals down on 2 occasions. So maybe Port aren't as bad as what people think they are. Cough, cough. And hopefully they can. I agree with you. If they can't, apologies for that. If they can't rebound, or if they can't replicate it and do what they did last week again this week, then question marks do reappear. But let's finish up the Port analysis. Let's move on to Sydney. What were your takeaways from the Sydney side, if you had any, from this game?
Well, it's odd, like you said, like they had to back it up against Melbourne. It looked like they were doing that, and then they let Port back into it, got ahead again, and let Port win it. Realistically, I mean, it's on the run sheet. Might as well talk about that last kick on goal. Could have gone a completely different way if that goal had gone in. But they decided they wanted to celebrate their way into a celebrated too early compilation. So that's what they did.
It is an all time celebrating too early moment. I don't think you can beat it. It was very, very funny to watch it back on replay and just look at different. First, it was Ollie Florent, then it was Dylan Stevens joining Ollie Florent, then it was Callum Mills on the line. There was just so many little different kind of spot fires of people celebrating too early. The more you watched it, which was quite funny. But if we're gonna talk about that moment, do you hold blame to anyone? Because the wins, I love Ollie Florent, right? I really, really like him as a footballer. I think he played one of his best games, one of the better games of his career on the weekend, quite ironically. I really like him as a footballer. To defend him a little bit, the wind was ridiculous, especially from that pocket. Even Ken Hinkley said post game, he was kind of confident that the person who was going to kick it wasn't going to make the distance. So maybe take of that what you will. But do you hold anyone to blame? Do you hold Callum Mills to blame for leaving a vacant 5 meters for earlier to come through and punch it, or is it just a very unfortunate circumstance?
No, it's probably unfortunate. Like, I've sort of read, like, if Mills had stayed there, could have shepherded Lear off the ball. Like, that wasn't going to happen, right? Like, the chances of him, well, you would have given away a free kick trying to shepherd him off, like punching it out anyway. I think they would have doomed either way, whether he stayed there or not.
That would be an even funnier way to win the game, to be honest.
It was unfortunate. I don't know. I feel like Florent would have known what he was kicking into. I feel like he probably didn't want to sacrifice power for accuracy, so probably went with the accuracy. And I guess you lose that power sometimes when you do that. And it was literally the perfect kick in terms of you couldn't have kicked it anymore straight through the goals, but probably unfortunate. No, I mean, unless you have a different opinion, but I don't feel like there's anyone to blame on my end.
No. I hold the same opinion. I think it is very, very stiff on. I think it's extremely stiff on Ollie Florent, because any other day that goes in, and even if he kicks it 5 seconds after, the wind probably holds, like the wind probably isn't as strong, or it's blowing a little bit differently, and he probably kicks it or whatever. So it's very, very stiff. And he is really screwed over every single Sydney supporter for the rest of the season at least, because that still frame photo. I probably should have got it up actually, but I can't bother doing it now. That still frame photo of him celebrating way too early, and then realizing he's celebrating way too early is all time. Is there any other celebrating too early moments you can think of? I remember very one famous one, Dylan Buckley running into the MCG or running into an open goal in the MCG and hitting the post and going off like he's kicked the goal to win the grand final. Any ones off the top of your head, question without notice? Because
I don't know. The other one I can think of, but I don't know if it was the players. I don't know if you remember. It was Freo West Coast, the Ballantine kick after the siren.
Yes.
That's the only one I can. But I don't think that was a full blown celebrating too early. They sort of were.
Yeah,
he was about to absolutely go off.
Yeah,
and hit the post or whatever.
That's like the kick is online, like it's going in. You're running off thinking it's going in, and then it just sprays. It just fades to the left. He didn't go. He didn't really. Yeah, that would have been funny considering. But I think Florent, regardless of, we can't think of any. That tops the list, right?
That's all time.
That is all time.
Yeah, by far.
Yeah. Very, very funny. Another talking point that come from that game, and a very swift and handbrake style change of tact. A very unfortunate storyline that come out of this game was, of course, Paddy McCartan. Now, watching the game live, obviously you didn't see the incident. You were not watching the game, obviously, but not a shot, I promise. The basically, I think we don't need to go over what actually happened. I think everyone knows by now and has seen the internet quite a few times. It's very, I don't want to use the word unreal because I feel like that is a different connotation, but I feel like that's almost a perfect way to describe it because it doesn't feel real. Like, it doesn't feel like that incident happened in a sense because of how innocuous it is, the player obviously involved. We all know we all know the history he's had with concussions and with head knocks. It was such an unfortunate incident, and I'm sure we'll speak about the potential aftermath about it just once we finish this point. But what were your thoughts, or what were yours? What was your reaction at least once you saw the incident?
Yeah, it was like, I wouldn't say I wasn't surprised. It was just sort of, I don't know. It's a bit depressing to read. It's like you put those two things together and you're not surprised, right? Because he's had that history. It was just more of like, what's next? It was, you just read it and you're like, yeah. I don't know. If I'm honest, I sort of thought like that's probably it. You'd think, I mean, segue into the next bit, but like I couldn't see a safe return for him, right? Any chance of him playing again, which I don't know what the chance is at the moment, but you're like genuinely, he was already risking it all then, like in terms of just long-term effects. It's like, it could be way worse if he does come back.
Yeah, 100%. And I think watching that, like as someone who's a big combat sports fan and man boxing and stuff, you see this happen a lot with fighters when the more times they get knocked out, the easier it is for them to be knocked out. And to me, that incident to me screamed, that was basically showing me that his brain was just telling him to stop. Like, just stop. It's not worth it. Like, we all know how extremely talented he is and how extremely passionate he is about playing football. But like, there's life after footy, and that's probably more important, almost definitely more important than the 18, 20 career that you could have, right? That was like extremely gut wrenching to see. And to me, it just feels, like I said, it just was showing to me that his brain was just telling him to just let it go. Like, if this is happening in such an innocuous incident, I mean, knock on wood, heaven forbid, something worse could have happened. I agree with your point. I think if he comes back to play, and I think what Gary Lyon said, I think on Fox Footy, I agree to some extent. I don't think we should just flat out say and retire Paddy McCartan. I don't think we should do that, because we need to back in the professionals here. We need to back in the professionals. They should know what they're doing, and we think that they do know what they're doing. But in the current climate that we are living in with head knocks, in the past couple of years, we've seen obviously the horrendous incidents or the horrendous things that have happened to people like Shane Tark, who have obviously, after he passed, he was found out he had CTE through repetitive head knocks, and he wasn't a player who suffered, who wasn't publicised to have nearly as many concussions as Paddy McCartan. It's a very, very rock and a hard place, especially for someone from an external perspective. I don't want to put a blanket on it, like asking the question, do you think he'll play again? But like, yeah, do you have anything more to add in a sense?
Well, it's probably the question of do the experts win, or does his personal opinion win? Which you'd have to take the experts at this point, and I'm assuming they're going to say no. It's not safe for him to play again. Like, that's the reality of it. So I think no, but it's whether which one of those wins, I think.
I think we're under the assumption that he would want to play again.
That's what I'm thinking. He did so much to actually get back to that level. I don't know. I'd be surprised if he didn't want to, but not because of that. Not because he just was scared, just purely because of the love of the game. He'd want to come back, right? But you got to prioritize safety over anything, right? Like,
yeah, got to prioritize your health.
I'd rather I'd rather go out and knowing I might have done damage, but it could be way worse if I had gone in and done it again. So interesting.
I personally, like, I know, like, my opinion obviously holds no weight, right? Obviously, but from a fan's perspective, I'm not a fan of Sydney. Like I don't support them. I watch them, like I watch footy, right? If I were to see Paddy McCartan play again in the near future, it would make me uncomfortable to watch. It would, because I mean, we have it, we have it like we have it now where I mean I know it's a completely different scenario and it's obviously on a far in the grand scheme of things a far lesser scale, but someone like Charlie Kerno, who had obviously a very long injury history with his knee. When he came back, I was a bit like, oh, like every time he landed, I was like, I was on the edge of my seat type kind of thing, like just is he all right? Did he get up, etc., etc. I can't imagine, let alone Sydney supporters, but Paddy, like the McCartan family, if he were to come back and play, imagine how they would feel every time he's crashing a pack, every time he goes for intercept mark, every time there's a loose fist or a forearm or an elbow. Like I couldn't do that as his father or as his brother. Well, we all know Tom got a concussion himself that game. I would feel very uncomfortable as someone if I was in that position. Yeah, would you agree?
Yeah, I read it before. I knew you were going to bring it up at some point, but
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Palm, yeah, hits an nail on the head. Yeah. Like they're like footy is such a small part of your life. Like, yeah, it's probably the most enjoyable, probably the most important, but it's 18, 20 years max. 20 years max, right? For most people.
Yeah.
Like, come on. We wish him well and we just want him to be happy at the end of the day. Whether that's whatever he does, as long as he's in the best possible health he can be, that's the main thing. But I guess it's a wait and see at this stage. Regardless, I don't see him playing again in any time soon. I'll probably hesitate to say the rest of the year, but if he was to come back, I would assume it'd be next year or very, very late on in the year, if that.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Nice. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on, and let's get back on speaking about the actual football as we send all our loves and prayers and wishes to the McCartan family. Of course, Tom as well got a concussion, which is not great. But let's move on. Let's speak about Brisbane because I'm not going to speak about the team that Brisbane versed, or maybe I will. Who knows? Let's see where this conversation drags us. But Brisbane was another team in which it has been a very hot topic of conversation on this show in the last couple of weeks. They obviously got spanked by Port, went and beat Melbourne. What did they do in round 3? I can't remember. We spoke about this last week.
The Dogs.
They lost to the Dogs in a shocking display, and then they go out and beat the best team in the competition, the Collingwood Magpies at home. We spoke about it last week.
What an indirect shot that was.
I don't know what you're talking about. We spoke about it last week. Are they flat track bullies? I don't think they're flat track bullies. I just think they're confusing because that was a very good performance on Thursday night. A very good performance against a very good team. They're one of the first teams I've seen beat Collingwood. Not at their own game, but have a clear structure to beat Collingwood, and they beat them convincingly, like very, very convincingly.
Well, frankly, if you're not going to speak about Collingwood, I will. I think Collingwood's game style is very easily beatable. That's what Brisbane do. Collingwood just want to run forward. Like, they just consistently want to run forward. They, hold your structure behind the ball, right? And you'll concede to Collingwood, right? They're dangerous enough where they will convert their opportunities. But when you get them on transition, there is a likely chance that more than 70% of that team is pushed forward. And that's what Brisbane did. They killed them on the transition, had numbers, ready to push forward. And that's where they won the game. And that's why I think Collingwood's game style just doesn't it will beat the teams below them. And that's quite, they're still better than quite a lot of teams. But when it comes to teams who have the players to match really high standard of individual talent plus tactical knowledge and ability to its structure, their game plan just doesn't work. It won't work as well. And that's what Sydney did to them twice last year. Melbourne did it to them until they crumbled in the back end of that round 22 game. like it's not concerning for Collingwood, but I also think they're quite an easy fix away from like beating those teams. Like I don't know. So you say what you want to say.
Well, I mean, we're meant to be speaking about Brisbane, but now the fact we're speaking about Collingwood. Like I don't want to harper on last year because last year was last year. But let's not forget, Collingwood did win a lot of games, but they were also losing a lot in a lot of those games. They were 5 goals down to North Melbourne, right? That Carlton kicked 8 goals or 9 goals in a quarter against them. Like they were last year a very, very fallible team. Very fallible team. I think this year they've improved tenfold. I think they have. I think getting Tom Mitchell has been a very shrewd acquisition. Something that I didn't think would work as well as what it has. It has improved their contested game tenfold because he's a player that can just get it out to the runners, and which Collingwood have an abundance of, right? But like, even if we go through their games, Geelong, they showed clear fallibility. They demolished Port, which was a very good performance. Richmond, in the wet, showed fallibility once again, and they got beat by Brisbane. They aren't this almighty power that's going to win every single game and win the grand final by 100 points. They're not unbelievably good yet. I think they do have the ability to get there. But what Brisbane showed was the blueprint executed to perfection on how to beat Collingwood. It's pressing high and almost kind of meeting them 50-50 in a sense. When they rush forward, they rush their defense against them to kind of stop them during transition. And then once, like you said, beating them over the top, all their players rush forward. That one kick centre half forward and then bang, how many goals did they kick out the back on Thursday night? That was the blueprint executed to perfection by Brisbane.
Well, but that's what I said about Collingwood. They'll beat the teams below them because they run hard. Like they run harder than a lot of teams in the competition, and their intent is there. That in terms of like a team, to be fair, I rate Collingwood as probably the like top 2 in terms of players knowing each other. Right? You'll see, like 100%. You'll notice a lot that they do the. I mean, it's very odd. They do the tap stuff a lot. Like they'll
yeah.
But that's a skill, right? Like that's not just luck. They know that because they practice that, right? They're very good in that sense. But I just don't like understand why they don't have like they have to have a defensive mindset at the same time. Because to be fair, they've conceded some pretty heavy scores to start the season. Geelong was 99, I think.
103.
Was it 103? 103. Port was 74. That's better. The Richmond game in the wet is always going to be low, right? And then Brisbane 113 or whatever it was. So they're conceding some pretty high scores, which, well, I mean, you hear the saying sometimes, isn't it? Like, the defense wins your games, right? And sometimes it wins your championships as well, premierships. So it's just an area. I don't think if they're not going to improve it, they will get beaten against teams who have the same running capacity, which is teams like Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. So it's not concerning by any means. I just don't understand how it hasn't changed at all.
I think it has.
That was it has a bit, but that should have been a focus area from last year. That's how they got beaten in those 2 games against Sydney. In that game against Geelong, that's how they got beaten.
Well, it's the rose-tinted glasses. They probably should have addressed that after their win against North because they really didn't deserve to win them. Yeah. They probably should have addressed it after their win against Adelaide or Essendon, where they probably shouldn't. Like, do you know what I mean? It is that little bit of that rose-tinted glasses. But I think Collingwood are in a position where they should be fine. I mean, if they lose St Kilda, then some more question marks should can arise.
Not to preview it all, but I'm saying if there's any coach that should absolutely obliterate Collingwood, it will be Ross Lyon. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You would think. But to be seen. It's whether the players can execute it, really.
Yeah. Let's get back on track. I feel like this was a little bit of a EU initiative speaking about Collingwood.
You were never gonna talk about it, right? So I don't know what you're talking about. I had to. Hey, look. Well, I haven't heard from your buddy in the comments tonight, so I don't think he's here.
I don't think he's here. I don't know. We'll see. Still half an hour to go. Let's speak about Brisbane. Let's flesh out the Brisbane point. Got beat easily round 1, dominated Melbourne round 2, got beat quite comfortably in round 3, and then dominated in round 4. Do you still subscribe to the theory of it's just the Gabba dominance, or is this an inconsistent team regardless of where they play?
Uh, I would say both, because obviously they're not going to lose every game away from the Gabba, right? You don't expect them to go to play Hawthorn in Melbourne and lose, right? It's not just a Gabba issue. They are very inconsistent, but I do think their best footy at the Gabba compared to anywhere else is just like ridiculously too large.
Yeah, if the Gabba was the MCG, like they'd win the flag
Yeah,
by the length of the Flemington Straight. It wouldn't be funny.
yeah. Which, I mean, it's never a bad thing to have such a good game plan to your home ground. I'm not like I've said on this show a couple of times, a big advocate for winning your home games, right? That's what often will get you into finals, just winning every home game. That's 11 as it is. And that will take you as far as the prelims if you finish that high up, but that's not where the grand finals played. So you do have to be adaptable if you're a non-Vic team, which that's unfortunately the reality.
Yeah, so yeah, their percentage currently sits under 100. 93.3, 334 points scored, 358 against. It's I don't know, Brisbane. Like they're confusing. Like they're confusing. I think out of all the clubs, I'm yet to develop a clear kind of idea of what they are. I think most other clubs we can kind of get a sense as to what they are and what they will be. Maybe someone like a Geelong is an exception, or a Freo, maybe, or even the Dogs, Port as well, maybe. But I think Brisbane are the clear. Like no one knows what they are. No one knows who they are. Wait and see at this stage. Would you tend to agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, no, I would. In terms of a ladder position, I probably have them around fourth, fifth. In terms of not a ladder position, as a ranking.
Ranking, yeah.
But they could honestly go down by 3 or up by 3, depending on who they beat and where they beat them. So the confusing is definitely the right way to put it.
Right. Yeah. We're going to come here next week, and they would have beaten who they're versing. They would have beaten North by 150. They would have beaten North by 150 points, and Joe Danaher would have kicked 12, and we're going to be raving from the rooftops. And then the week after, they would have lost to the Giants over there, and who knows what's going to happen after that. But yeah, let's move on to a side who probably have a little bit more of an understanding about what they are this season. That's the Crows, and I think we're both going to be very careful as to what we say, considering tomorrow. So let's not underestimate them too highly.
You know what my tip is anyway, so frankly, I don't care what I say in this period now.
Yeah, right.
I'm still going to tip them regardless.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you can go for your life. I'm going to be very diplomatic about this, but I pose this question because I had them. Funny enough, I had them above Collingwood in my preseason predictions, which you never know. But I think based on that, I would have had them 12th or 11th. I saw the improvement in this team. I didn't see this type of improvement in a sense. I think their forward line is bordering on elite. I think it is very, very good. Thilthorpe, Walker, Fogarty, Rochelle, Rankin, and then your other smalls floating in between those. I think it is a very, very good forward line, and it's like with younger teams, you have one thing that kind of gets you places, especially when you're young, because it's like you don't have a lot of depth within your squad and within your team and within your structure, etc. Adelaide's forward line will win them games just by themselves. They're going to have games this season, I can guarantee you, where it's going to be 130 to 120, something along those lines. Because I think once that forward line, especially once it gets maybe 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games within themselves and as a full unit, I think they're going to be very dangerous. And I think it's going to be a wait and see as to whether or not they can really challenge for the 8,
I think they'll be similar to Brisbane in the fact I don't honestly see them going outside of Adelaide and performing as well. They're very, very good at Adelaide Oval, and I would back them in 9 out of 10 games at the Adelaide Oval, and I thought they'd beat Richmond over there. They are a very hard side to beat. I think it's a more intimidating crowd going to Adelaide than going to Brisbane.
Yes, I would go.
They're a tough team to beat there, but then we go back to round 1. They lost the Giants in what I think is not really a home ground. It's a neutral ground, if anything. There's usually opposition supporters that equalise the home supporters. So the team is good. And I think the good thing with Adelaide is they haven't reached their potential, right? They're still development there. They're still playing with a bit of like no expectation. Obviously, there's expectation, but there's really isn't, because a lot of people don't expect them to make the 8. I'm sure they back themselves. Why wouldn't you? You're beating teams you should be. I mean, last year you wouldn't say, oh, Freo should beat Adelaide pretty comfortably, which they did. Oh no, they didn't. That was that 1 point game. But like they comfortably took out Freo, and I know they've been extremely poor, but like that's an impressive win for a list that is still developing. Usually, you would expect them still just to win that game by a couple of goals, but they did that comfortably. And I mean, I genuinely think they'll beat Carlton tomorrow. Not because, and I'm always pessimistic about Carlton, right? But I genuinely think they'll comfortably dismantle, because they don't have pressure on them, right? Like they will play with freedom. And I mean, we spoke about this pre-game. The pressure's on Adelaide because it's gather round, prime time, whatever. They don't get that as much, right? But it's also as much on Carlton but you got to beat Adelaide, right? If you want to make finals or all that. But I just...
Well, I mean, I think we can speak about that game. We can speak about Adelaide game. We spoke pre-show about, obviously we were just chatting about the Blues, and I made this analogy and I made this comparison, and I think it's a very good comparison. I think this game is going to be very, very similar to the Fremantle Melbourne game at Optus Stadium last year, and almost in kind of, not in contrast, but also backing up that point, the Fremantle Geelong game in 2021 at Optus. Prime time, young list at home against a relatively established, comfortable, experienced team who is under a little bit of pressure. I think it's sink or swim, and I think this young Adelaide team could fall in the same way to which Freo fell those 2 times. I'm not saying that's going to happen 100%, but it wouldn't surprise me if the occasion just got to them. And it's not necessarily an indictment on them, because I think they're a good side. I think they will be a good side, and I would back up my point by saying I think they will challenge for the 8 and push it quite well. But I think the occasion might be too much for them. But in the same vein, like Tex, Sloan, I know, like they have a lot of players around the club in particular, whether or not they're actually playing or not, but they'll be around the club regardless, who played in grand finals, played in finals, experienced players who can kind of nurture and teach and kind of guide these younger players through. But in the same vein, however, if there's any kind of occasion in which this young Adelaide team is going to want to show themselves, it's at home, kind of. They've got not the pressure of the AFL on them, but it's kind of like they're kind of the piece, in a sense, like the main piece of Gather Round, the opening act of Gather Round, kick off the round with a bang, show how good South Australian football is, etc., etc. At home, big crowd, prime time, coming off 2 wins off the bounce, etc., etc., etc. A lot of things could lead up to Adelaide coming or hosting Carlton and killing them. However, the same vein could be all this pressure, all this expectation, all of these things that should go right for Adelaide could come crashing down really quickly, and Carlton could just breeze them aside in a very un-Carlton-like manner, should I quickly add.
Well, yeah, it's like the question itself on the screen. Are Adelaide underrated? No, but there's still areas from improvement, right?
Do you think they're appropriately rated?
I think they'll be appropriately rated after they go interstate and put up we sort of see them against a challenging team, right? Because that's, if you're a team that wants to make finals, you got to challenge interstate, right? You got to beat teams who aren't necessarily your top teams. Like you wouldn't expect them to go to Melbourne, beat Collingwood at the MCG, right? But you go to, you play Richmond even at the MCG, or just teams that are battling, and they're not underrated. They're sitting well where they are. And I think we'll learn a bit more about exactly their identity come probably about 3 or 4 weeks.
Right. They're versus Hawthorn in Tasmania next week.
Well, that's a neutral ground. Is it
No, it's
neutral?
not. No.
Well, it's not Hawthorn's home ground, is it? I mean, you can't sit here and say, it's Hawthorn's home of Tasmania.
They play well there.
Right?
They play well
do.
there.
And they beat them. Was last year that 3-point game where Adelaide kicked like 15 goals straight? Was that the year before? It was, yeah.
I think it was last year. Oh, I don't know. Maybe the year before, who knows? But, yeah. So do you think that game isn't going to, that game's just whatever?
Well, if you lose to Hawthorn, then they're overrated, aren't they? So, I'm looking ahead through the phone. They play Geelong at GMHBA in a couple of weeks. So
it should win that easy, right? Yeah, comfortable.
That's an easy win.
Yeah, very easy last year. Come on, guys.
Anyways, time-wise, let's move it on.
We've got time. Relax.
20 minutes. What do I say? One segment takes us 20 minutes, and we have 3 left.
Technically 4.
The
tips will take
segment.
The tips will take us.
If that's going to happen.
Yeah, no worries. The Dogs, they're good. The Dogs are good, right? But are they good? They're good because they're good because they're a good football team. But are they good? I don't think they're good. Do you know what I mean?
They're now watching them a couple of games. They're the exact same team as last year. They are so inconsistent. Watching those first 2 games, you would genuinely think they are bottom 4 material. Not that the last 2 games suggest they're top 4 material, but they, suggest they'll take it to anyone and they will be ultra competitive. Richmond have been honestly as poor, you could say. They just haven't really hit the ground running at all yet. So, no, I wouldn't say they're good. They're just competitive, but they're just too inconsistent to be good.
Well, I kind of made a fool out of myself because I tweeted from the rest account saying that they sucked, and then they ended up winning the game, which was a real surprise to me. But they're even inconsistent within 4 quarters, and that's the hallmarks of a young, inexperienced team, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit similar to what Carlton did last year, right? Inconsistent within games, not with the side that has. How many, I don't know how many premiership players are still there, but Libba, Bont, McRae, 3 premiership players who at the time weren't, obviously Bont and McRae were younger than what Libba was, but at the time weren't experienced names, now have become experienced names. A lot of those players were grand final players from 2 years ago. They're not a young team. They're not rebuilding. They're not inexperienced. There is really no excuse for them not to be prolific and not to be efficient and be structured and disciplined. I think this is a coaching issue, to be honest. I think Bevo's kind of been really hidden and has been really lucky that the spotlight hasn't been on him because, if this was the exact same situation but cross Bulldogs off and replace it with Carlton or with Collingwood or with Richmond, the coach would be under a lot of pressure, because right now they're not up to scratch.
Yeah, they're just. It was interesting. I guess. Look, if I say with the Dogs, it was interesting because they made the 8. It would be hard to get rid of a coach. It'd be harsh for me to say about Port Adelaide, right? Well, but yes, it was. They do need a refresh. You would think. I mean, the players they've gone on the full journey with Luke Beveridge. They literally done everything they could have done with that coach. They got a grand final win out of him. Terrific. You put your name in history, right? Lost the grand final. It's going to happen. Refresh. Or else it's just it's hard to say. We've never been inside the 4 walls of a football club, right? It's very hard to sit and say we know what. Oh, look, I could have been good if I actually tried.
That knee injury. That knee injury really.
I've never had an injury, but it's hard to sit here and say, we know when a team needs a culture change, but
it's pretty obvious.
They must see something. Well, it looks obvious, but why would you then extend him for 2 years? Like, I don't like
Football
the
clubs are
logic in that
weird.
makes no sense.
Football clubs are weird.
It is just
Weird.
odd.
Football clubs are they're weird. They're weird. So I think let's be clear and let's get this a matter of fact. They fell into finals last year, right? They didn't make it. They fell into it. It was as almost
Yeah.
it was as almost if you take 2013, it was as close to that in which how Carlton made the finals as you could possibly get. They literally just fell into the eight. They did not realistically like tell me they truly deserved it. They didn't. We let them in, right? Which
No,
is like
not
fine.
at all. I mean, they literally they just got over the line against GWS in the second last round against wherever they finished 16th or whatever. And Hawthorn battled them for at least 3/4. So like, no, they would.
And they choked in the second half of the first final.
I'm surprised they actually got much ahead, to be quite honest. But no, like, look, they got in. Fair enough. If you make it, you make it. But no, they hadn't. Their football was not very good at all last year. Yeah. So, interesting choice. But no, to conclude, they're competitive, but they're not good.
Okay. Let me just quickly change this. Hold on. Probably 2 seconds. So yeah, they're competitive, but they aren't good. Is that what you wanted?
Well, that's what I think. They're competitive. Like, you're not going to rock up to a game against the Bulldogs and think easy win, right? You wouldn't, unless you are Sydney, Brisbane, Collingwood, Melbourne. Yeah, okay. If you say you're not really see any other teams not going to go into that game thinking it's an easy win. They will always be competitive because they simply have too much talent not to be, but that talent is not the talent in that team is not good as a collective. So
yeah, it's the same problem they've been plagued with for years. 22 good players, not a good team.
Yeah.
It is what it's one of those things. Let's finish things up. Well, not finish things up. Get to the conclusion of this show as we speak about Hawthorn. And we spoke about this pre-show. Nathan was scathing last week about West Coast. Yeah. Scathing last week about West Coast. I think it's my time to be scathing. It's my turn to be scathing. I feel absolutely zero sympathy. This club ruined my formative years, right? Ruined my formative years. I've never been more upset at a grand final loss. I was a Fremantle supporter in 2013. Like, heart on sleeve. I was broken after that. I don't know why. I hated this club with a passion. I feel absolutely zero sympathy. Zero sympathy. And I know Hawthorn supporters. My cousin's a Hawthorn supporter. He's a good bloke. I know Hawthorn supporters. They're good people. The club itself, zero, absolutely no sympathy in the slightest. And to be honest, I think that's a compliment because you've tortured me. 150-point loss. You've tortured me. So go on. You can take your 4 flags in 4 flags in 8 years. That's fine. Enjoy your 5 years down at the bottom where we lived for a decade. So zero sympathy. Enjoy Harley Reid. And just pipe down. That's all.
Want to tell us a bit about Harley Reid?
Yeah, those prison bars, eh?
Draft
expert, Harley Reid, draft expert. Go on.
Oh well, look, I got to see Harley in person for the first time on the weekend. For more info on that, check out the Craft of the Draft podcast. Might just do what you do.
Very good.
No, he's a very good player. He'll fit, like I said this to you pre-game. Hawthorn are that bad. He will easily pre-game. Sorry, pre-show. Yeah, he's pre-game. We do warm up. He will walk into Hawthorn and be top 5 next year. I do think the media can insanely makes these outrageous overhypes. Like, he's an insanely good player, right? But I mean, I think Channel 7 or whatever. It was like he obliterated opposition. Like, Sorry, you guys turned up with your camera just to, sorry, no, like he was good, right? 25 touches, great game, but it's a very good player. He'll fit into Hawthorn pretty easily. I mean, that's not too hard. I'd assume most top 10 prospects would, but no, I don't feel too much sympathy for him either. I mean, they tortured a lot of teams, and I think it's time a lot of teams are going to start torturing them back. And look, it's not that hard for a coach to put on a TV pre-game 3 years prior, like 4 or 5 years prior, a video of them getting beaten by 10 plus goals. And that's all the motivation the team will need to beat them now. They actually put up a good fight. And then they decided they didn't want to.
So. Yeah. Then they decided, Harley Reid. That's what they decided.
Yeah, well.
Look, let's be honest.
Tough luck, eh? Tough luck.
Yeah, like I said, zero sympathy. But let's be honest. Let's not beat around the bush. I'm not going to say they're tanking. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to accuse them of tanking. But, like, come on.
They're not tanking. They're awful.
No,
they're awful. They're 2018 Carlton Hawthorn.
I think they're purposely tanking in the sense of you don't cut your list that deep on purpose. Or you don't cut your list that deep with the thought of, we're going to challenge next season. We're going to be all right. We're going to win like 5 or 6 games. You don't.
I think they cut their list probably at the wrong time. Like, I feel like the time what they've done now was they made the finals 2018, right? And they finished 4th that year. They played Richmond, and I don't remember who beat them the week after, but they made finals that year, right? Melbourne. Melbourne went on that run. Like, you could tell that was probably it. That's when they should have started. Instead, they just kept waiting, let players play out their time, and I mean, it does look like tanking, but I just think they're genuinely awful. I don't think they could try and win if they wanted to. I mean,
but maybe that's the point.
Yeah, who's their next couple of weeks? So they've got Giants, Adelaide, and Bulldogs.
Realistically, they should win one of them, at least.
The Giants game should be competitive. Adelaide.
Okay.
What we've said about Adelaide. Well, the good old Norwood Oval, be a cracker. And on free to air as well over Collingwood and St Kilda. So sit down on a Sunday afternoon, get to Channel 7 at 3:20, because that will be fantastic.
Who in their right mind thought that was a good idea? That is awful.
I don't understand what he's trying to say to me. You're trying to tell me GWS and Hawthorn is not a better spectacle on free-to-air than Collingwood and St Kilda?
I'm trying to tell you.
Buzzing Norwood Oval of under 1,000 fans, nothing better.
All I'm trying to say, and forgive me if I'm wrong, and please tell me if I'm crazy. But 2 teams who genuinely suck so bad, like 2 awful football teams, terrible, playing at a ground that is probably VFL level at best, right? With all due respect to Norwood, never been, but I assume they're good people. On free-to-air television, over Collingwood, this is not done, over Collingwood, a very, very good team, very big supporter base, and St Kilda, 4-0 St Kilda, at Adelaide Oval, one of the best grounds in the country. Look, to me, it's pretty cut and dry which game deserves free-to-air, and it's not the Collingwood game, put it that way.
Good segue, hard to gather around. Let's discuss it. Huh? Let's talk about everything good and obviously not good about gather round.
Well, let's talk about everything good about gather round. All right, that's done. Let's speak about everything not good about gather round. We should let's do a part 2 tomorrow. Come back next week.
Well, genuine thoughts on it. But let's re-summarize for those who may have joined us.
Yeah,
later.
I made my opinions very clear about this in our second episode this year. I hate this with a passion. I hate it. I don't like it at all for a couple of reasons. Firstly, 6 games at one ground on one weekend. Like, Like, what's the let's check the weather forecast, because if it's raining, God forbid that's Collingwood St Kilda game. It's literally going to be a cow paddock. Literally going to be a cow paddock. So not only is that like, I just don't like the fact that we have to sit and watch football at the same ground. Like 2020 was Groundhog Day enough, right? With watching 7 games at Metricon Stadium a weekend, right? Like, far out. So not only is that stupid, but what, I don't understand the purpose of it. Like, I don't understand the purpose of it. Like, what was the desperate need for, like, why do we desperately need this round so much? Why do we desperately need it? I don't get it. Yeah, it brings in revenue for the AFL. Surely there are better ways, right? Surely there are better ways.
Well, it's tough. No matter where you play it, there's not enough venues, right? Because I think in every state you only have max 2 venues. In Perth, only got the 1. Adelaide, you've got 1 venue plus Norwood Oval, which is,
and plus 1 in the mountains.
enough.
What's the other one called?
Yeah, which is
Mount
Adelaide
Barker.
Hills.
Mount Barker, yeah, Adelaide
Yeah, that
Hills.
one.
Can't wait to
You've
watch
got
a game there.
Melbourne, you've only got the G and Marvel. Sydney, you've got the Showgrounds and SCG. I guess you could say you have Allianz. Sorry, not Allianz. It's soccer, the ANZ, right? So that's 3, but ANZ's not a football, not an AFL ground. And then Queensland, you've got Gabba and Metricon. There aren't enough grounds around to do this type of thing. To be honest, I've liked the lead up. There's a bit of there's a nice feeling around it, but I don't think it's fit for the AFL in a game where it's 120 minutes of pretty full on running into the turf. So I don't know. I just wish they'd bring back like rivalry round, right? Heritage round.
Heritage
the
round.
Guernseys. Like the only thing I like, the Guernseys of Gather Round, Adelaide's so good. Freo's, just a carbon copy of the Blowout, the Giants one. Port Stealth training Guernsey they did, but the Adelaide one, terrific. Collingwood's, if you've seen the leak of that, is pathetic. It is one of the worst Guernseys. I hope it's fake for their sake. I don't understand. They had a swooping magpie one. I saw another leak of pre-season with Darcy Moore. It looked fine, but they're just go yeah.
No, I was going to say the Adelaide kit's overrated.
It's not overrated.
It's overrated.
That is an awful call. No, that is.
It's overrated.
Nice little sort of throwback-ish, but not too over the top. I liked personally the 2009 away one with the sort of blue crow, red back, yellow. I like that.
Such a nerd.
Gives me a bit of those vibes. I'm a big kit person.
As if you know 2009 away Adelaide kit.
Well, I know, because what was his name took Mark of the Year against Carlton in that last round. Brett, Mark something took Mark of the Year, right?
Yeah, Mark
I know
took
from that year. Yeah. Mark took me. I wish Carlton did the Eminem remake, and not because it's a good kit, because it's just the piss take, right?
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Bring that out. It would be funny.
That would be fun. Yeah, or the yellow one.
The yellow one. I mean, that was for a good cause, but still would be funny either way. Right?
Yeah. I'll get the call. Yeah, bring the cause along. Why not? That would.
Anyways, we've gone off topic. Can we?
I've checked the forecast. Tomorrow 5% chance of rain. Not bad. Friday 90% chance of rain. Saturday 80% chance of rain. And Sunday 30% chance of rain. So if my prediction comes true, imagine what we did at the start of this episode, times that by 100, and it's just going to be me gloating for 45 minutes about how right I am. Anyways, I can't.
Yeah. Exciting times.
I was going to. Were you ever thinking of going or not?
No. As soon as I saw we were playing Adelaide, I didn't see the point. Like, I don't understand why Port and Adelaide didn't open it. It sort of defeats the whole point of a neutral. Yeah. It's just an extra away. That's from a Carlton supporter perspective.
No, it makes sense.
And a Thursday night's awful. I didn't want to go to I want to go to an interstate game, but Thursday night is just not.
Really. It makes sense. Showdown, like prime time slot, the first game of the round, so probably Thursday night. Thursday night, showdown, open gather round.
Makes sense, but then where else are they going to make their money from? Because they need Adelaide and Port to host 2 games to get, or else, frankly, Western Bulldogs and Carlton, if they were the 2 teams, they wouldn't.
Are you telling me Freo versus Gold Coast on a Friday afternoon at Norwood isn't going to attract thousands of spectators, hundreds of thousands of people? Are you joking? Yeah, think about Freo are hosting Gold Coast. Freo hosting Gold Coast.
Oh, sorry, no. Actually, is it? Are you sure? Because that coin toss they did to the side.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Because
the coin
conveniently
toss.
Adelaide and Port, because God forbid if Carlton had got the home team, what were Adelaide going to do with that Guernsey, right?
Yeah. It's a bit suspicious, isn't it? A bit suspicious, isn't it? How they released it.
True.
So Freo are hosting Gold Coast at 5:10, so that's 4:40 Adelaide time on a Friday afternoon. Perth are 2.5 hours behind Adelaide. It's going to be on during school time for people in Perth. People in Perth are going to be sitting there in science with their laptop open with KO, watching their team play. What
I couldn't think of anything better, honestly.
Yeah, but what are we doing? Like that's absurd. Anyways.
But they get to choose if they run out first or second, so that's the advantage I want.
They get to choose which change rooms they want. Which really, I mean, forget top 4. Why the double chance? Why do we need the double chance? Just pick which change rooms you want for top 4. Honestly. All right, let's move on. I'm going to drive myself insane. Let's go fucking tip. Hurry up, go. I can't be bothered.
Okay, I'll run.
No, let's go through the tips of last week. Sorry. Let's go through the tips of last week.
Yes.
Got carried away.
Conveniently, the only week you want to go through tips, just saying.
Yeah, conveniently, because I won the tips this week. So last week we both obviously did the tips. If you want, I can't be bothered. I haven't written them down, but I got 6, you got 5. So we should probably keep tally of who wins each week. I think we should probably keep. I think I've got it.
It's been me every week, is it not? It was a draw one week. I can't remember.
Yeah, so you won round 1, 2, 3, and I won round 4. So it's 3-1 you. 3-1 you over each individual round, and 16-19 you in total. So it's neck and neck. I can claw it back.
No, 3's nothing. 3's nothing. It's close.
You can claw it back. All right. Let's kick things off. And considering that you tip against Carlton every week, it's very yeah. All right. Begin.
Okay. Yeah. Adelaide, Carlton, clear for me. Adelaide by 20 points.
Carlton. Go.
Freo blockbuster, Fremantle, Gold Coast.
Jeez,
this is actually a tough one, but I
can't wait to watch this game.
I still back my whole Gold Coast theory. They don't do much out of the Gold Coast, so I'd say Freo.
I mean, Norwood is as close to Gold Coast as you can get, right? That's what they call it.
Yeah, down the road.
Yeah. I mean, it's a suburban ground. There's going to be 3 people there. They're going to be more at home than what Freo are. Gold Coast are going to win. Gold Coast will win.
Fair enough. An interesting game now that, based off both results from last week, Richmond and Sydney. I mean, we thought Sydney were going to bounce back to the last week, and they didn't. So,
yeah, isn't it?
It could go either way, really. Like, it's actually really hard now to in neutral territory because, I think there'll be a bit of a Richmond crowd there. I don't know. I'm going to weirdly back Richmond. I don't know why. I don't know. Just one of those games, Richmond, they'll just turn up and win.
No Lynch.
That changes things, but opens the forward lineup, which I think is always a good thing for any team, honestly. So,
we didn't speak about the MRO because, I mean, you were heavily against it last week, so we scrapped it. Also, just shout out quickly to David Zeta because he's a legend. He's unbelievably funny. He's very good. Very good at his job as well.
Next one, Saturdays, Brisbane North. Brisbane.
Yeah. Oh, away from home. Ooh, Brisbane away from home.
Yeah, well, I'll stick with Brisbane. Essendon and Melbourne. Melbourne by 40 points.
I mean, we're doing margins now, are we? Melbourne.
Well, no, I just like to, if there's a margin, I
stick the boot in, yeah.
This is Essendon. This is the game for them, right? You guys think you're serious? Put up a fight.
Yeah. No, win. Not put up a fight. Win.
They're not winning.
They're at home. They're at home. They're the home team.
Home, true. Okay, well, I'll still go Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Saturday night, Port Adelaide Bulldogs. I think it was a blip for Port, and I will sit here even more embarrassed next week if it wasn't. So I'm going to say the Bulldogs.
Port.
Sunday, Geelong West Coast.
Geelong.
Well, Geelong comfortably.
In a massacre.
Yeah, should be. Giants fourth on. Giants.
We should all watch on for this game. Thriller. Can't wait for this game to end.
It should be close though.
25 to 40. Yeah.
Yeah, Giants.
Yeah, Giants.
And then game of the round, probably under Freo and Gold Coast, but the second game of the round.
Yeah.
Collingwood and St Kilda.
Game of the round at 4:40 on a Sunday afternoon. Unbelievable scheduling.
It's actually 4:50. It's actually 4:50. So even 10 minutes even longer.
Later. Yeah. Unbelievable scheduling from the AFL there. Well done, guys. Superb stuff.
Terrific. I'm going to back St Kilda based off the fact Ross will execute the game plan. It's whether the players do. And if the confidence they're coming in with gives the best chance. So I will say St Kilda. But I think this will be insanely close.
I think this will be a very, very entertaining game. Like, jokes aside, I think this will be this has game of the year potential about it. Shame about the time slot. If this was prime time, this is game of the year written all over it. But shame about the time slot. But I'll join you on the St Kilda bus. 5 and zip. Knock knock.
5 and zip.
All right.
There we
go. That's it. Who do we disagree on? We disagree on the first three, and
that's it.
No, I don't. Put Adelaide Bulldogs. Yeah.
So you could be in front by the end of the round.
I could.
Given every one of our 50-50s goes your way. So big week for you.
Big week. I can't wait to sit here and all of them go your way, which is going to be great fun. But we got over an hour, but I feel like it was warranted, the gather around the abuse. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure you enjoy Freo versus Gold Coast at 3 a.m. on a Wednesday afternoon, basically to be a better time slot than what it is right now. Make sure you subscribe to the Blue Broad YouTube channel. Follow both of us on Twitter at @Ari_Y_Stammer, STAMA, and at Nathan Seppi. Also, how was your Easter, by the way? I forgot to ask.
Yeah, same as usual. Yeah, good. Nice. Don't really have much to add, mate. What about yours?
Well, mine's coming up this week, obviously. Great things.
True. Yes.
Yeah. So
another reason starting our formalities at the end of the show, by the way.
Yeah, we probably should have done this to start. Hey?
We made it.
We made it. We're here. All right. Yeah. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the Blue Broad YouTube channel. Follow both of us on the socials. Follow the rest BA on Twitter and TikTok. Get around all that good stuff. Make sure you, like I said, subscribe to the Blue Broad YouTube channel. Like the video. See you guys next week. Thank you, Nathan, very much.